Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Sakazuki is a well-known character within the story of One Piece, and is the one currently responsible for commanding the entire navy through his absolute justice, which he has followed for quite a long time. So in today's video, we're going to take a little time to talk about Akainu, what his past might have been like for him to grow up and become such a strict character that we know today, and what the goal that motivates him is, and why he still maintains those strict ideals. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like, and even subscribe, and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and it continues to motivate us to make more content. If you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, Sakazuki was born in the North Blue, and it was clear that he lived through a difficult childhood, and he'd already had a very dark temper, and he also had a sense of justice displayed in the hat that he wore, being a seemingly poor child, and had even suffered a lot during his younger days. Though all his clothes were worn and torn in various places, his hat had justice written on it, demonstrating that his determination for this absolute justice must have come from his childhood, where he could have gone through many different confrontations and hardships and sadness, causing his heart to kind of lack feelings, and what's left is your willpower and determination to move forward, and not much else. Because we don't have much information about Sakazuki's childhood, it's hard to say why a poor, sweet child could have become so rigid and obsessed with the idea of justice. But it's more likely that the place where he lived was quite dangerous, and had to learn to be strong from a young age so that he wouldn't die or lose his life, which is what made him who he is today. After the days of his youth, Sakazuki began to seek justice for his past, and found a place where he could be accepted and put his absolute justice into action, and that was finding the Marines. At the age of 23, Sakazuki joined the Marines alongside 26-year-old Borsalino. Now during that time, Sakazuki had become increasingly stronger and had gained more recognition around the world, becoming someone who was recognized worldwide for their fame as a powerful sailor and who does not forgive anyone who disobeys justice or the law. Now, just as we might say about his childhood, we don't have much information about his early days as a Marine. We just know the basics that all admirals went through to achieve that rank. But as his story continues, 3 years ago, before the King of the Pirates lost their life, Sakazuki was in Marineford when the Marines learned that the Roger Pirates and Golden Lion Shiki were about to fight in the Ed War. Upon hearing this, Monkey D. Garp left the meeting with Sakazuki, Kuzan, Jaguar D. Sol, Suru, and others following suit, everyone preparing for a huge confrontation that would arise between Shiki and Roger. Years later, Sakazuki was one of the 5 vice admirals leading the buster call on Ohara, and he also ordered the destruction of a civilian and soldier evacuation ship, claiming it needed to be destroyed because they couldn't allow a single scholar to sneak aboard, demonstrating early on this absolute sense of justice. At some time after the Ohara incident, Sakazuki was promoted to admiral and given the codename Akainu, a name he bears to this day despite his elevated position. Although he is a strong and capable leader who has done well to consolidate the Marines' power and prestige, Sakazuki has a somewhat extremist and radical ideology. His absolute justice makes him do things that no other Marine would dare to do as a matter of ethics. Now, Akainu is completely obsessed with justice, and in a way that even his fellow professionals consider really unnecessary and could often be resolved in other ways rather than the way Akainu prefers to go. He is incredibly serious, dark, and expressionless, and is the most ruthless of the 3 admirals before the time skip. And this has given him a very fearsome reputation. But what worries him most is his dogmatism, which could end up turning the Marines into a much darker and more evil force than even their enemies, as Akainu would never tolerate anyone who goes against his orders. He is incredibly rigid and absolute in his beliefs, showing little compassion for anyone or anything, and he is ruthlessly willing to do whatever it takes to serve his own ends, no matter the cost. He also views the Marine organization as an extension of himself and his own beliefs, and is willing to take the lives of those who disagree with him, showing little to no care for those placed under his command. Now, while this has made him extremely powerful and feared among pirates, that very same fear inspires discontent and hatred for him among his own men, causing him to lose very useful and powerful allies, one particularly important one being former Admiral Kuzan. Even Garp, one of the greatest and most well-respected Marines in the world, was also furious that his fanatical obsession with destroying pirates resulted in Ace losing his life and nearly taking Luffy's life during that same battle. The best example of this absolutism is when he tried to take Kobe's life just because he tried to go against his orders in an attempt to end the great battle that was going on in Marineford. Had it not been for Shanks intervening, Akainu would have taken Kobe's life without a second thought. This same extremism also led him to stop Admiral Fujitora from entering a Marine base due to the failure during the Dressrosa, causing Fujitora to resort to staying in Marijois. We can see that a large part of the reasons why Sakazuki doesn't accept people contradicting him is because he can't stand to see his version of justice and honor shamed or broken. Even Fujitora said that Sakazuki's version of justice lacked credibility and honor, and this is especially so if Akainu was ever weak. And this only further inflamed Sakazuki's anger and saw it as a personal sign of disrespect. Furthermore, Sakazuki does not tolerate Marines who abandon their posts, for whom the only solace he offers is that they must not dishonor their families by fleeing. Even Caesar Clown, who is kind of the most ambiguous in terms of honor and respect and credibility, he believed that Sakazuki desired his ideals of weapons capable of taking the lives of many people, and would even drop to the level of inhumane experiments on prisoners, demonstrating that Akainu would take innocent lives without even existing just so his will can be done without any objection from his enemies, and not even his own allies. All of this absolutism makes an amazing contrast to somebody like Sengoku. While Akainu wants to achieve what he wants through fear and strict laws, Sengoku sought to achieve things peacefully without anyone losing their lives in the process. Yet Akainu's pride is so great that he would prefer to cover up anything that shows him in a negative light just to ensure that the Marines are adamant and stern in their doctrine of absolute justice. He's even gone so far as to yell at the Gorosei for just withholding information from him, demonstrating that he doesn't fear even those above him in the world's hierarchy. Being in his position, Akainu obviously knows that the Gorosei would damage his credibility to the Marines, and it shows that he knows the value of public trust, but thinks more of the embarrassment these situations could cause him, and more importantly, could cause the Navy. So despite his position as an admiral prior to promotion, Akainu is willing to lie and deceive his enemies in order to achieve his version of justice. And so far, Akainu's manipulations have been incredibly successful during the Battle of Marineford, an incredible feat really on his part. He was able to trick Squard through Sengoku's master strategy, he was able to insult Whitebeard, and that made Ace angry enough to stop his attempted escape. And that also adds on to his ability to fight and further manipulate his enemies. In his view, Akainu sees anyone who tries to interfere with him as nothing more than annoying obstacles. And it also seems that he's not afraid of pirates or even elderly Marines, as they aren't as powerful as they once were. However, surprisingly, Sakazuki can sometimes be wary of fighting pirates or causing disruption in global affairs. And this was seen when he didn't try to attack Shanks when he arrived at Marineford to save Kobe. Akainu realized, or at least respected, the fact that Shanko was a Yonko who was still in his prime, so defeating him wouldn't just be an easy thing to do. So he keeps his distance and respects Shanks, or at least until the Yonko does something that forces him to come out and confront him. Furthermore, despite Borsalino's request to travel to Wano to deal with the possible alliance of the Beast Pirates and the Big Mom Pirates, he declined, citing that Wano's military strength was an unknown factor and that they weren't within the world government's jurisdiction. We've also seen that Akainu has zero respect for former pirates and Marines who may have had great fame because of their past, but those who manage to gain their fame today or are still very powerful, he avoids as much as possible getting into confrontations with them. Despite all of his anger and rage, Akainu is still incredibly strategic and intelligent, knowing when an opportunity is perfect to start a confrontation and when the moment is not, always keeping an eye on how dangerous his enemy is. But in all situations, he always refers and accounts to his justice, and he's always willing to impose at all times, waiting only for an opportunity for him to be able to put an end to those who go against him and his absolute sense of justice. So with all that said, my friends, we'd now love to know what you think about it. Where does this sense of absolute justice come from in Akainu's world? Did something maybe happen to him as a young child, or did he see people exercising their power over others and decided to fight and yet become the very thing he hated? Or do you think it's something different? I mean, we know Oda likes a good twist, so what's your twist on why Akainu is the way that he is? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video for the day, we would like to thank you all so much for watching the video, especially those of you who've made it here to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.